Hi, I'm Denise Sheehan of Sage Spirit Coaching and Reiki, the Conscious Evolution Coach, Reiki Master Teacher, Shaman, and Conscious Channel for Soka, our spirit guides. Dana Nelsh is also here, also a Conscious Channel for Soka, behind the cameras as well. And we have just been on a journey. Something has been happening where people have been asking us, well, who exactly is this Soka? And we have been shown some pieces of that history, some images and some bits of content and meaning for that. And we thought it might be helpful to ask Soka for some guidance around that and to share what we learned with you, as we had the intuition that that would be helpful. So we have just been in journey, and we have just visited the place where we first encountered Soka. And I'll share a little bit of that with you, and Dana may drop in at some point or not. So, as we understand it, Soka comes from the stars. Soka is of extraterrestrial origin, if you will, and however that shows up, and that's probably lots of different ways. But that at one time Soka had come to Lemuria, which was a continent similar to Atlantis that was in the Pacific Ocean. And it is there that we met Soka in somewhat of a physical form. So Soka came from the stars to participate in a grand experiment that was Lemuria. And similar to the experiment we are having now on our Earth with amazing transformation. So there's something really beautiful and vibrant growing in Lemuria, and Soka dropped in to experience that and assimilated human DNA with Soka's physical structure. And so Soka stood about 2 feet taller than most humans and had somewhat of an iridescent luminous form, and yet lived among humans in the times of Lemuria that way. Perhaps there were others that were that way too, much more accepting of diversity in those days. And so when we were shown how life was, we were shown glimpses of certain things. And I know that we can go deeper, and I know that this is not the only experience of Lemuria. There are many ways that it could have shown up. But we were shown a place where we lived, and there were very white, a lot of whiteness, purity, cleanliness, and there were no sharp edges. So what I see most prominently is just like a rounded off balcony with glass walls that lead out to the balcony and white sheer curtains blowing in the wind. And from the balcony there are porpoises, bottlenose dolphins, that are playing and that are communicating back and forth with us, and that there are birds of the ocean that are coming in, seagulls and things like that, and that we also communicate with them. There is a oneness of life here, not just with humans, but with all the creatures who are on the planet. There is a oneness and an acknowledgement of unity, of communion in the deepest sense. There is a reverence for all of life in all the ways that it shows up. And the reason that this message is important is because there are little breadcrumbs here to take us to our next way of being. So in our culture, we have talked about Darwin's theory, survival of the fittest, and that is the reigning theory for how we live. And I'm a huge fan of the work of Bruce Lipton, and how in Spontaneous Evolution he talks about thriving, of community, of cooperation as the path of that. And what I'm taking away from our journey in Lemuria and our glimpses there is that there, beyond even that, there is a way of being where we are co-creating with one another in love and reverence. It's even bigger than thriving.
Such a freedom of expression. no concept of right or wrong, it just is. A reverence and honoring for each other and for ourselves that we can't even understand right now. Such freedom to create artistically, such freedom to create spiritually, such freedom to create the life that we choose to live with cooperation, community. The thing that came up for me was no ownership. Mm-hmm. There just is. Complete sharing, complete, if you could say, understanding of each other. But first, understanding of oneself.
And so there is complete sharing of all belongings or possessions. No ownership. There is no ownership of people. So that we live in these family units that are fluid and dynamic, where there is a deep reverence for life. So we are, I'll give you a slice of life in a moment, but we are coming and going in our family, staying for as long as it suits us, and also being able to experience life with other families and to follow our desires and our intuition around that, and being willing to allow one another to come and go the way that we allow ourselves to come and go. And that this is the path to true unconditional love, the letting go. Because if we can be with letting our things go and letting our beloveds go in complete freedom, then we are also not attached to the way that people show up in our lives. And so we can be in complete freedom to allow that full spectrum of expression and growth and expansion. And I know for me, learning to embrace all the ways that life shows up has really been a challenge, especially where there's woundedness or hurt or crime or pain for people. But there is a way to transcend the culture so that these things are, the things that hurt become less prevalent, and the way of love grows ever brighter through the path of embracing all of it.
What I sense too is this is so different than what we experience now. It is such a shock, even though we have experienced it before. Feeling homesick. Feeling homesick. But I think at this point right now, to bring that joy that is Lemuria into us right now, bring that joy.
So a slice
lighter,
of life.
Brighter message.
Yes. So a slice of life is is being in the kitchen, and so I am watching out at the sea, and I am hearing voices in the kitchen, and there are members of my family who are preparing food, and what I hear is laughter and delight. And there is a building up of creative energies one of another as they intuitively plan the formation of the meal. And as they tap into who will be present for that meal, they are looking at what would create the greatest nutritional balance for everyone involved. What would nurture those bodies so desiring of reverence the most in that moment. But there is also the appreciation of sensuality and appreciation for the meal. And so there is also a balancing of those energies. How much sweet, how much sour, how much color, and all of that. And so there's this deliciousness, and there's this embracing of, say, one one person feels suddenly wounded or isolated or sad or fearful, and that there is space for that person to have his or her process, but there is also a community of support to embrace that person in love, whether it's physically or energetically, that there is space for healing for all, that we feel everything that everyone feels so acutely that there is no way to sense isolation
So
or
talking about
separation for any
celebrations.
prolonged period of time, and that
And the
the
freedom.
feelings of anyone
I know I was at the
are
freedom that feels like
important.
a well-worn bearing that just, when you move it, it just spins forever. Having that freedom in your life and in what you do, without guilt, without shame, without fear, without the idea of good and bad, just being in that moment, letting all of those superfluities go and being with what is. It sounds easy but confusing, and in Lemuria it was an experiment. They say it's an experiment, but it was more than that. It was a discovery of a way of being, not only a way of being in earth suits, but a way of being as pure energy, letting go of all of that to where it doesn't matter and it just happens. Life just happens.
So at the end of our journey, we asked Soka for the meaning of this message. What is it that we can take away as human beings in this incarnation, in this time, in this amazing way that the world is being right now? What can we take away from this that will help us? And what we heard was that the path is around ascension, and a lot of people are using those words right now, but it is about being willing and ready to go through portals of experience to create in bigger ways. And so if we look at this 3D world that we're living in and how to create a shift that will sustain this kind of lifestyle for us, if we choose this, it will be too cumbersome to do it from the ordinary realm of bricks and wood and nails. And so we have to look to a more evolutionary and a more creative approach to this. So really thinking about if there was a portal before us that offered us passageway to this way of being or to another way of being, if your heart's desires call you a different way, then would you be willing to walk through it? And do you feel ready and prepared in this moment to walk through this portal? And if you are willing and if you are prepared and ready, then the way will be shown to you, so that you too can create this heaven on earth, or whatever heaven on earth may look like for you.
So are we ready? Someone asked me the other day if I could open up so fully to other people that they could see what was inside of me, what I felt, what I thought, if I was ready to truly open up that fully. And without hesitation, I said, yes. I'm not saying it would be comfortable, but I'm ready.
It's a great analogy, because that is part of the package. That degree of empathy is part of the package. And so you may be shown bits of insights like that will help to guide your path. Someone may share some words of wisdom that may trigger something in you, a resonance, a memory, a clue. You may be called to ceremony or ritual of your own making, or maybe revisiting that of your past or of the past, the broader past. Another thing to think about is ownership, and what does that mean for you? And so thinking about the tradition of the giveaway in some Native American cultures, or in Buddhism, of giving back everything each night, and starting fresh, of having non-ownership, although I know a lot of Buddhists with a lot of things. Yeah, so what does abundance look like when you marry it with non-ownership? And how willing are you to embrace all the ways that other people show up for you? And then thinking about how can you show up as unconditional love in each moment? How can you let more and more of your attachments of how the world needs to look in order to fill your wishes and just be love?
So that's a glimpse into what we know. And there's more.
Much more.
We know there's much more. So, just be love.
Be love.
Yes.
And have fun.
And have fun.
Aho.
Aho.
Aho.